Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scott McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
So that's the whole, from the beginning, surfacing those articles, finding not just the ones that everybody else is sharing, which is so important, right? This whole idea of underground content.
Yeah.
The article that's talking about how amazing Pittsburgh entrepreneurship scene is, but it's coming from the Phoenix Sun.
Right.
That no one else has read yet.
Right.
Everyone else is reading all the same stuff.
Hey, everybody, it's Scott. It's Wednesday, and it's the Pitchwerks podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This week, Scott Rogerson is in from UpContent. This is a tool for content curation. You're going to appreciate how much time he saves you and how much easier he makes it for people to understand what you do, what you think, who you are. I'm a big fan. I think you will be too. UpContent is based here in Pittsburgh. You should check him out at upcontent.com. Let's talk to Scott and find out what's going on over there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Rogerson comes in to talk to us from UpContent, and I guarantee all of you sales heads are going to love this conversation. Scott, how are you?
I'm great. Super excited to be here.
Dude, glad to have you, for real. I cannot believe I didn't know about this. I was lucky enough that Darren Grove, who has been on this fine program.
Great guy.
Darren goes, "You don't know Scott yet?" And I said, "I'm sorry, like, is that 10 demerits or something?" And he's like, "We have to make this happen."
Yep.
And the reason is that UpContent is actually tremendously useful as a tool in the 2019 version of selling. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take your thunder away, so I'm just going to say you're a Pittsburgh-based company.
Correct.
That is making it a lot easier to deal with content. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Yeah. So UpContent is a content curation platform, and I expect we'll probably dig into what curation really means.
The thought had crossed my mind.
Yeah, little buzzword that I'm going to throw out there in the first three words. We usually work with marketing, sales, HR teams, so internal and external communication, but particularly on the sales side.
You're not wrong. I knew this coming in. It's just I got a little excited about how I would use it personally.
Yeah, well, there we go. We'll just focus on that because this is your show. You know, we gotta do what you want.
You're far too accommodating. Don't turn me into a tyrant. I start to tunnel vision in on it, but you're right. If I were trying to keep employee satisfaction at a certain level, and I wanted to share, like, hey, here's all the great things people are writing about us, I could probably use a content curation platform.
But it all circles back to sales, right? Because everything you do is sales. Yeah. So personal branding,
you're not going to find an argument for me. Yeah.
And what our focus is to help surface and then triage the worthy and trustworthy news and blog articles that are written worldwide that match those specific needs and desires of you as a salesperson.
Yep.
But most importantly, the people you're trying to talk to help engender that trust and build those relationships.
That is a really good place to jump off from, because I think the first thing, if I'm trying to explain to people who don't touch sales and marketing right now, what's the value?
Right.
And I'm sure you have these conversations sometimes with like founders and CEOs that haven't come through that path. It's, why do I need this? I didn't need it yesterday. Right.
Always.
And I will answer that question very simply. And it's this. There is a greater need for the educational component of the sales process today than there ever was.
Right.
And educational, it doesn't even do it justice. Relative value is a tremendously important thing people need to understand now. So one of my clients, let's say, makes chrome-plated widgets. Mm-hmm. And these widgets are good for 8 different things. Now, the first thing is the price on that widget good?
Sure.
Well, I need to know that. How much should you pay for a widget is an article that's floating around there in the ether right now. Like someone's just waiting to grab that and put that onto their LinkedIn news feed channel, right? Should you still use widgets, or did thingamabobs now take them over? Right. So there's an article out there that says like, no, widgets are still in or still the best option, right? This comparison, this relative value question cannot be answered by your sales team because of the accusation of bias.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think the pieces as well, and we've all been on the other side of that table.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, you as the widget salesman are going to tell me
widgets
that,
are in.
that widgets are the thing to buy.
Absolutely.
And then I can use them in every sort of need I possibly need widgets for.
Are you kidding? This is the lowest price we've ever offered.
And it's the best price, and it's the best widget.
And why would you try something else?
Correct. And so what I'm going to do then is tune you out pretty quickly if we haven't already built that relationship.
Right.
And then I'm going to try to wait and look at my watch and wait for the meeting to end. And then I'm going to go and do some research on my own to determine if widgets are the right thing.
Google.com with, are widgets still
Correct.
the best way to whatever?
And here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
You get
the
thousands and thousands of answers.
Yep.
And then you, as the uninformed widget customer at that point still, don't really know which article to read that's going to give you the right answer because you're not sure of the bias of all of those articles as well.
Right.
And so now you as the customer are doing a ton of work and you're trying to figure this out.
Yep.
And the salesperson then who comes in after you says, hey, don't take my word for it on widgets. These are some great articles from reputable sources.
Yep.
That I can show you are telling you, as someone who's in your industry, widgets are the thing to do. And yeah, I'm a little bit more probably than the other guys you've talked to, but we're going to help make sure you're getting the right widget because we understand that different widgets need to be used in different places.
And there is, you and I had this conversation over lunch one day where I said, my magnum opus, my major contribution to the world of influence and persuasion is going to be the concept of content as ammunition. Someday I'm going to write this down, right? Yes. When I get time, I guess. If you're looking for the answer to be something, you will find an article that matches the answer you asked Google to bring back. If you want to find an article that says widgets are no longer in fashion, then you will type that in. You will get that article, and you will now be able to present that article as evidence in support of your claim. This is what the flat earth thing does. This is what a bunch of other different people do. And the point is to win an argument or to get your way, you can type something into Google, but it's not guaranteed to be a reputable source.
Correct.
And that's going to be the new frontier of this sales thing is who can I trust and who can I not?
Correct. And what's the relationship over time, right? Because I think in order for me to become reputable, I have to rub elbows with other reputable sources. Right.
Yeah, it's the old tell me who you run with and I'll tell you who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And similarly and we know that depending on what study you're reading, 76%, 68%, 83% of that sales process happens before I talk to that salesperson.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I think the number goes up. I don't think that the studies are really that far off from each other at all. I honestly think the number just keeps going up. And
probably.
The reason is because complexity is the rule now.
Right.
This infinite complexity of available product. There are still people who use fax machines.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's maybe best practice, but maybe for somebody it is, right? There are still fax machine toner cartridges being sold. There are still fax machines being sold. You've got all these different options, and with options comes articles, opinions, reasons to do something, reasons to refuse something, and biases that go along with it.
Absolutely. And it goes...
Don't want to know how to use this.
Yeah, and it goes all the way back, right? Yeah. I really wish I would remember them. There was a book that talked about the evolution of social media and traced it all the way back to the Roman tablets and nailing something on the wall, and then someone taking that and retranscribing it, right? And it would go to the next person who would transcribe it again.
Yeah.
And that's how people would build their understanding. This is nothing new, right? You should use other people's articles to help showcase what you understand.
Yeah.
But we're using it in a different way, and we've moved from, oh my gosh, I can't do just traditional buy my lowest cost widget. I have to write blog articles now about widgets so that people will learn from me and trust me, to wait, now there's too many blog articles about widgets.
Wait, I'm going to press pause on that. You can do it. You can say buy my lowest cost one, but it paints you into a very specific corner.
Very true.
I can very much just say, hey, look, it's $5. The worst thing that happens is you lose $5. That's a legitimate pitch.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that that's who I want to be.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that's who I want to tell my kids I am.
Right.
Be like, well, who are you? I'm the guy who tells people that it's, even if you're lighting it on fire, it's only $5.
Right.
Like I gave $5 to a panhandler today. That's real. That literally happened 5 hours ago. Right. If someone came to me and they were like, hey, look, it's a computer for $5.
Sure.
It might take a hard sale just because I don't feel like carrying it.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But the idea is that there is a certain low price point that you have to retreat to if you want someone to just make an impulse buy.
Right. For certain products.
For certain products, right?
Right. Like
Absolutely.
$5 car. I don't care if it was 5 cents. I'm not buying that car and I'm not putting my family in that car.
No, you're not going to put your family in the car. But let me. Do you think there's any car that you can't mine $5 of value on? Right.
If it kills me,
no, you're not going to drive it. You're gonna sell it by the pound. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're a very specific corner that you're in, and what the difference is margin. The difference is prestige. The difference is brand. Right? You know what we're saying is, if you don't just want to be a guy who's selling a car for scrap,
right,
you've got to be really good at explaining Consumer Reports or I don't know NHTSA or IIHS crash tests. You've got to know. I don't know. What are those? JP Morgan or no? What are they called? JD Power.
JD Power.
Yeah. JP Morgan is a bank, as it turns out. JD Power, right? Those commercials with the glass, right? Otherwise, the only way you're going to sell that car is based on poundage.
Yep. It's social proof, right?
Social proof is a great word,
and it's social proof and you need it in different ways, right? You need social proof from other people that are like me who have also bought that car and enjoyed it, and I also need social proof from people whom I trust. Like a JD Power, Consumer Reports, people who I know are supposedly unbiased, debatable, a whole nother podcast, going through
2 or 3.
Going through and evaluating these cars and giving me information so that I feel like I can make an informed decision, which doesn't just help me make the best decision for me, but there's a lot of research that shows my feeling of making an informed decision increases my likelihood to recommend it.
Yes.
And even if it doesn't meet the bar that I had thought it was going to meet, I'm still going to say I'm satisfied because I have a vested interest in that being the right decision.
Oh, yeah.
Because I told everybody it was the right decision.
Oh, my God. You go to my church. Ready? So I've always said any decision that you just made is by definition brilliant, right? Anything that you just committed to and you have to tell your neighbors about.
Right.
Nobody ever came back from the car dealership and was like, oh, my God, did I just get killed?
Yeah. Second best choice.
Look at this garbage they made me buy is not something that anybody ever came home and said.
Yeah.
Somebody goes, so you bought a Gremlin, huh? Yeah, it's the dopest thing ever.
Best thing. Cup holders are amazing.
Now, I want to play an interesting bank shot here too, because there's a personal branding revolution going on right now.
Indeed.
Like you have these cues going on that say, like what's the right way to present yourself. You speak in such a way that I can draw the conclusion that what you're saying has probably been studied, right? This personal branding thing then changes also your credibility, right?
And you kind of brought it back on the personal branding side, right? Because it's also personal branding outside of sales. It's personal branding for talent acquisition.
Yes.
And personal branding for recruitment, because more and more people are seeing themselves, and maybe they don't say that I'm a brand, right?
Yeah.
But they want to showcase themselves as a knowledgeable, valuable person who is working for a company that they made an educated choice to work for. They're not going to go back home and say, I took my third best offer, right?
I took a job from the worst jerk ever.
Yes, they want to say, I'm great, my company's great, and the company wants you to feel that way because otherwise you're gone.
So tell me how you are determining what's a good source versus a bad source when you're curating.
Yeah, really good question. So the definition of good and bad is variable.
Especially right now.
Exactly.
Now, the only way to counter my good article is to undermine my good source.
Correct.
Right? So if I come to you as widget salesman from company A and you're from B, you say, wait, Consumer Reports?
Right.
Oh, those guys don't know anything about widgets.
Exactly. And so what we try to do is stay out of the fray of passing judgment on article goodness or badness, but provide the toolbox to help you find the articles that you believe are good or bad.
Right.
And so there is machine learning built into UpContent that continues to evolve and change as we get feedback, direct feedback from our customers.
That's cool.
We evaluate a news article and a blog article, and you may be like, oh gosh, here we go. Is how it's written, what it's talking about, how it approaches topic areas, helps us to make that identification. We also look at how interesting the article is to read, which is really important. We don't care about
that.
So it's looking at all of those studies that you've seen about, X number of percentage of people only read the headline, and headlines need to be of this length, and need to end a question mark, and they need to have 8 things to do about widgets in there.
Yeah.
Those tend to get X number of percentage.
You won't believe number 6.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Read on. Those are the things that we look at, both at the headline, which is actually overweighted, given all the studies, and then the text of the article. How long are the sentences? How fat are the paragraphs? Are they using breaks, or is it just one big piece of terrible text to read through? We stayed away, and what a lot of people, we call that shareability.
Interesting. All
And
right.
one of the things that people automatically think about when we say shareability is, oh, you mean how popular it was, how many times it's been shared, right?
No.
And we stay as far away from that as possible because I'm trying to get the guy to buy a widget. And I don't necessarily know if the reason it got clicked on and shared all these times is because number 6 mentioned somebody else's mother.
Yeah.
And that whole crew now is sharing it and going crazy on it.
Right.
But that popularity factor has nothing to do with how I'm trying to identify if this is a good article or not.
Yeah.
So we look at just content neutrality in that sense of, is the article good? We also look at influence of that article on the topic. So we use our own crawler that goes out and finds this information worldwide.
Yeah.
Currently English language only.
Okay.
So if you can understand the podcast, you're in good shape.
There's lots of nuance, right?
There is.
Everything that you're talking about requires a great deal of localized understanding of the use of language.
Correct. And so we have had, we have current customers in about 20 countries. Predominantly business language is English, obviously, in those countries.
Yeah.
Interest has come to do it elsewhere, and we would love to, but exactly to your point, that really makes almost a redo of a lot of these approaches to the article. But the influence piece is taking Google's PageRank process, where we look to see how articles are linking to each other, but we only care about articles that also match your criteria.
Okay, got it.
So once again, if I'm doing 8 things to love about widgets, and number 7 is Kim Kardashian loves widgets, and it links to a Variety article about Kim Kardashian, that doesn't count on the influence of that article.
Because it wasn't what you said you wanted.
Yeah, it doesn't talk about widgets. So we only care about the articles that talk about widgets over the time frame that you ask for, because influence changes over time. And we bring those, most importantly, all to you in a way that you can actually do something with them. Right?
Now, I got to ask you a question now. If the vernacular starts to change, right? Let me say this a different way.
All right.
Over time, the competition and the market and the customer's education level and all these other different things are changing, right? It sounds like largely what you're doing is automating something, but I'm wondering how much I have to influence those results, right? Because if all of a sudden, a month from now, Apple comes out with a brand new iWidget, right? It literally changes an entire market.
Yes, indeed. And so the value that you get, it's a continuum is how we'd like to talk about this to the customers. Yes, you can automate using UpContent, automatically have articles that we find based upon your very specific topic criteria, appear on your website, get out through email, appear on your social media without you having to touch a thing.
That's cool. I didn't realize it was even that level of automation. I assumed that I had to intervene before I got to the website or something.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
But we often recommend that you do.
Yeah.
So we like to talk about this continuum. Yes, you're going to get value. Your site's going to be fresher. You're going to have good stuff on it. But if someone then comes, Scott, great article on your site the other day from Forbes, really enjoyed it. And you're like, that was a really good one about
that was the best, wasn't it?
That widget article that I put up there. You have no idea. So, you're not getting that value.
Yeah.
You're most likely reading anyway. And so what we want to do, though, especially going back to the sales individual who is likely reading, she's reading all the newsletters and things that come on her phone. But in most cases, she's also extremely busy and not sitting at a desktop with like LinkedIn open to copy that URL and paste it in and go and type her post for her own LinkedIn profile.
Right.
So what we try to do is make it very easy then to say, this is a great article. Thanks, UpContent, for finding it for me. I want this to go into my next drip campaign as the featured article. This one should actually go into my next newsletter about what I've been reading this week that you should then read. And I can now do that on my phone or on my laptop. And I can, most importantly, collaborate with the other smart people in my company and coalesce those insights so that my marketing team feels like they've got the best of the best, and what they share and what they get out is actually reflecting the perspective of the company, not just the perspective of Scott, who's the content marketer.
Right. Who has a bias because he's been here for a long time and he prefers the old products, but we're not really skewing it towards the newer products.
And what we see more often is the opposite.
Yeah.
Scott just joined the CPA firm or the law firm,
that feels
and
more
he's
right.
not a lawyer or a CPA. And so he's looking up articles about M&A law and sharing the most basic articles that have nothing to do with what that company's actually doing. Yeah. And so what happens? Madam Partner sees that article on the LinkedIn, runs down to new guy Scott's office and says, what the heck are you doing? Stop doing this, right? Yeah. And we're not doing digital marketing anymore, right? Until we get this together.
You are now officially in timeout.
Yes. And so now Scott is super freaked out And he's not going to share a darn thing at all.
I've been Madam Partner in
Yes,
your example.
yes.
I've been that person where all of a sudden I went, you understand that you just shared
Right.
our competitor's captive. Like, they may not use the same name, so
Right.
you didn't recognize the name.
Yes.
So it's, widgetreview.com,
Right,
but
right.
it was actually, when you trace it back.
Correct.
like,
Correct. That
a
little bottom that
captive-
says sponsored by, right? Blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
Right. And you didn't know that AHSNC was a competitor of yours.
Nope.
Right? Just
Nope.
like, wow,
no idea.
Gotta
You're
learn it.
sitting there just scratching your head going, I don't
Right.
know why she got so mad.
Right. And more importantly, as you previously mentioned, you can find an article that takes any side you want. Right. So
yeah.
I may find great articles about Article 11 of the EU Commission that just got passed because I'm looking and it says, hey, it says Article 11. Great. That's what I was told to share.
Yep.
And I share it. For Scott, the new guy, he wasn't trying to be malicious or trying to be lazy. He just literally didn't know. He could have read through that article 50 times and not known that that was the wrong position because he's not an attorney and he's not a CPA or he's not a consultant or he's not a widget manufacturer.
Or
he's
didn't
just
read
really
all
good
the
at
way
marketing.
through. See, here's
That
the
could be
other
it.
one, right?
That could be
the
it.
other one is a lot of times the really onerous thing is missed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's in an action graphic on
Certainly
the
could
right
be.
margin.
Certainly could be.
And you read the body, and you're like, the body doesn't seem like it's objectionable.
Right.
And you look at the skyscraper banner on
Sure.
the right, and you go, it literally is telling people to buy something
Yes.
different,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which is fine for other people to say,
Right.
but here we've decided to take a different
Right.
tack.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is enable that Madam Partner and say, hey, Madam Partner, you're already reading stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's part of your job. You read stuff all the time. Why don't you read stuff that can actually help Scott be informed about what he should be doing and let him actually implement the strategy, but let him do it with the articles that you, as the smartest people in the room, are identifying as great without you actually having to do any of that work.
Nicely done. I like the way you sewed that into that example very well.
So they open up that phone and they're good to go.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the whole, from the beginning, surfacing those articles,
Yeah.
finding not just the ones that everybody else is sharing, which is so important, right? This whole idea of underground content.
Yeah.
The article that's talking about how amazing Pittsburgh entrepreneurship scene is, but it's coming from the Phoenix Sun
Right.
that no one else has read yet. 'Cause
Right.
everyone else is reading all the same stuff.
Right.
And how can I then share that? And you're like, man, this guy really knows what's going on. How does he find this stuff?
Yeah, he's finding these things that
Yes.
help me. This graph was really useful, and
Yes.
I ripped it out and I took it to my boss and I explained what this different insight was.
Right.
That's the difference. That's
Correct.
what makes it so that right now today, the current state of the art is you become the trustworthy person by having access to and command of a greater arsenal of tools.
Yes. And I love the command of section, right? Because we like to say air traffic controlling, right? So it's not just the finding, not just the reviewing with your team, but it's actually getting them to where they need to go
Yeah.
in a way that can convert people back.
Well, if you're just going to back up a truck and dump articles on people,
Yes.
they're not going to read them.
Yes, exactly.
It's about being selective, calling your shot, and having a verve for the perfect use of someone's time.
Right. Right. And that's why it's called curation,
Yes,
right? Not
very much so.
aggregation, right? Just like if you go to a museum and you see a bunch of stuff on the wall, it's not just some guy who's gone to the back room and went to like locker room C.
It's not
and
every Roman shield we ever
Yes,
found.
yes.
It's an example of one
Yes,
Roman shield
exactly.
that we found.
And I see the Roman shield on the Roman with the sword and the other items that and so it helps me understand.
Context is king in this. Yeah.
And I get what's going on, and I don't even have to walk up and read the little thing.
Yeah.
It tells me this is a Roman, this is a shield. I get that, right? Thank you, because it was a well curated exhibit.
It looked like a salad bowl. I thought it was a salad
Yes.
bowl. So who are your customers right now?
Predominantly professional services organizations that have that acute
I am
challenge.
so disappointed. Honestly, I wanted the tech people to be they're the ones who have to educate people more.
They do. So we do have a number of technology consultants, application developers.
I mean, I get it, yeah.
but we don't yet have the technologists.
They're the
who are
ones who need to
doing
be
it.
here.
I'm
You
with
may
you.
just be early, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like what's the path here.
Right.
But when I think about things like understanding like data lakes,
Mm-hmm.
right? When I think about understanding things like privacy compliance, right? You're like these things are gnarled, and the technology aspect of it does not make it clearer or easier or faster.
Right.
It makes it harder, and it gives you two people that you might have equal initial impression of, like dueling over philosophy.
Right. And you said a good word of context, right? And I think that's a big piece as well, because what we see in a lot of cases is people who are thinking, I'm a widget salesman.
Yeah.
And so what my topic is going to be, what articles I should be sharing, regardless of what tool you're using or if you're just manually searching for stuff, right? Are articles about how great widgets are,
Yeah.
right? In some industries, many industries, that's not what your customers just want to read, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to show that you understand their pain as well and the problems that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then lead them to your unique perspective, which still should be the original content that's talking about tying all that stuff together. Because if you're a widget salesman, you send me an email and all I see are articles about how great widgets are, I'm not opening that next email.
Next thing I know, I'm either caught down a rabbit hole or just never taking your call again.
Right.
Those are the two choices,
Yes.
right? I'm either going to use all the time in the world,
Yes.
faithfully following the breadcrumbs that you laid,
Right.
which is unlikely, but
Right.
possible.
Right.
Or the second thing is, this is a person who does not understand how valuable my time is. Maybe I'll wait for someone who does.
Right. And we've all gone through those content marketing strategies with our marketing colleagues, right? And identified what we should be talking about, who our persona is.
What are we doing for Follow Friday?
Yeah. It's National Hot Dog Day. What you're doing.
You've been looking at my Hootsuite.
To talk to them, right? And then you start refining that down because you don't have all the time in the world to write those things, right? And you start to say, well, where do we actually uniquely have a perspective?
Yeah.
Right? And then there's all these other things, though, that you identified that your customers care about, but you're not uniquely equipped to write that article. And so historically, you just push those off. And you deleted them from the whiteboard and say, well, we're not going to write about that. We're just going to write about how cool widgets are and the new alloy that we're using for these widgets.
Like everything else, it's a prioritization game.
And then
you looked at it and you said, do I want to write an article or do I want to sell a deal?
Correct. And then you lose context.
Yeah.
Because you're just sending me an alloy of
you're not.
articles.
I honestly don't think you're sending anything at that point. Like I honestly think, you're just sitting there going like, I'm just going to do the best I can with my proposal, and I'm going to make my proposal as impressive as possible because I've got a choice between writing a proposal and writing a blog article or whatever.
Yeah, and then I'm going to think about how many ways I can say looping back differently.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, hey, Scott, really good conversation. I know we touched on this. Here's an article that I saw recently that I thought you might be interested in.
I literally 8 hours ago, there's a lot of my day incorporated in this conversation. 8 hours ago, just told somebody that they need to stop saying the words checking in. You know what that says? You haven't bought yet.
Yes.
Why?
Right. And I know you're still there, right?
I'm hoping.
So that's not valuable to me as the recipient of that email to know you're checking in.
No.
Right.
In fact, it's insipid.
Yes.
It's the opposite of what I want in my sales rep.
Right. Right.
What it says is you won't ask me for what you want.
Yes.
And you have nothing new to provide.
Correct. So instead saying, hey, Scott, I know we talked on these things and this was some of the decision criteria you were going through. Just came across this great article that I thought you'd be really interested in. Love to get your thoughts on that and let me know how I can be helpful.
Do you think I could have been harsher in that judgment, by the way? Good Lord.
I think
insipid is a word I haven't busted out
I like
before.
it. I like it because it's entirely accurate. You would be better off not sending that email.
This is a PSA right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one. Stop quoting yourself in Instagram quotes, okay? Like don't quote yourself in these things. It's ridiculous.
I once said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you want to know who I think is brilliant? Me.
Yeah.
Okay?
You got to get better friends. You got to stay away from those people.
Buddy, I'm here to tell you that I spend a lot of time looking at what people put out there just because I want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about this thing as like a 2019 thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm painting that too narrowly, but it's not that old. Maybe 2017 is where understanding the value of third-party content, and I love you using the word social proof because I really wish I would have said it, like earlier in this show.
You could claim it because,
No, we should have said it a lot more often.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like legitimately, you honestly just exposed to me to something that I wish we had covered more often, which is that if you have a New York Times article about your company, that's gold.
Yeah. And most importantly, what we've seen, and you're right on point with the years of how the trends have moved, right? 2015, other people's content was just filler material.
Yeah.
Right? I knew that
in 2015, you were too hip for the room. You probably only had one or two clients.
We had a lot of people laughing about that, right?
Willing to pay the real money for it.
Yeah,
the right money for it.
Totally. And it was this kind of, and that was also the same of, I need to post X times a day.
Oh, yeah. It's proof positive that you don't post because something's good. You post
3 times a day.
Just checking in.
Yeah. It's very similar to
it's
just
the social media version.
It is the social media version of
You didn't forget about me, did you?
No, yeah. Here's me again with an article that I didn't read.
Hey, you're not talking to any other widget people, are you?
Exactly.
Hey, You don't think she's prettier than me, do you?
So it was all filler content then, and then no one cared, right? Because it was just, whatever. As long as it says the word widget in, no one's gonna read it anyway because I'm putting so many out there.
Yeah.
And then it started to evolve into, because at that time it was, I want to write as much as humanly possible, and I'm gonna write.
It was an SEO play.
I'm gonna write 1 paragraph blog post and create 20 of those a week as well, and throw them all over the place.
Well, because heading 1 gets better SEO.
Yeah, I'm gonna pray that this I'm doing something fancy here.
Yeah.
And then all our customers got smarter and like, this is just an SEO. Like the customers now were saying, you're just doing an SEO play. Your site is worthless to me. And then Google said, I don't want to start giving value to worthless sites. So we're going to change how we do this. Right.
I'll tell you, one of my big gripes with them though was the fact that they included freshness as part of the algorithm in a disproportionately strong piece of the algorithm.
Yeah.
So in other words, it showed preference for something being new versus useful.
So the biggest piece is to realize that that's why you're curating to begin with.
Yeah.
Because your customers have that same exact problem. And so they're looking to you to solve that for them.
Yeah.
So you're providing a service. This is not a, how quickly can I get you to sale? This is, I'm going to provide you a service. You're going to trust me. We're going to make the right decision together.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this model is. So I'm trusting in you as a brand, as a salesperson, to make sure that I'm not being given fake, right, incorrect. Because otherwise I'll just do it myself. And I don't need you to be sharing this stuff with me.
Okay, now let me put some English on that ball.
Yeah.
Ready? I am using the articles you share to determine your character.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's weird.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, if you would have told me that.
You are who you hang out with.
Yeah, for real.
Right?
And if you share crap, then I have to reevaluate why I let you into my life.
Yeah.
Scott, I could talk to you all night. Thanks for coming in.
This was great.
All right, that's the end of the ride. Thanks to Scott and everyone over at UpContent. I really suggest you check out upcontent.com. Big fan of the time savings and the curation. I really enjoyed the conversation. This is a great opportunity to talk about a lot of concepts that roll around inside my head on a regular basis. Buzzy and I are going to make another episode of this fine program. It will be back on your phone next Wednesday. Subscribers get it first. Take care of yourselves in the meantime.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com. pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, pitchwerks.